My guest this morning calls himself a former porn addict, and he is popularly known for causing controversy on the popular NTV men. Godfrey Kutesa, good morning.
Good morning, Brian.
How are you?
I'm okidoki. How are you?
What's your story?
The story is big. The story is just too big. And for purposes of this program, I'm just going to share a little bit of my story so that I can be able to help people.
From escort service manager
to
now speaking against addiction and pornography.
The thing is that you cannot start fighting something that has not bothered you. I know where porn led me. You cannot manage an escort service if you do not know, if you're not addicted to porn. But for me, as a person, I was addicted to porn at the age of 13. That's when I started watching porn. And then imagine from 13 years old up to the time I was 24, I was still addicted to porn. So I know the pros and cons of porn. I know where it led me. So that led me to actually producing shows, making orgies and things like that. But the center of everything isn't porn. And I know where it started, and I know where it led me. So I'm fighting porn because I know what it did to me. And I still know what it's doing to people who actually seem to be innocent, who actually seem to be clean. Yeah, so that's the thing.
Did it have to get to a point where you felt so, for lack of a better, guilty and decided, well, I think it's time for me to reverse?
No. You know, we have different backgrounds. With myself, I come from a Christian family. And with a Christian family, there has to be an element of God. When there is an element of God, that's when it's only you who actually, you yourself, you cannot do it. You cannot do it. It's only God who can help you to do it. You know, people realize, you know, you can go buy a prostitute and sleep with a prostitute. And after that, you're like, oh gosh, look at me. I've done this. You understand? But the point of you stopping to say, no, tonight I'm not going to do that. That's only God who can do that. So in my life, there was that element of God. It came back, actually. That's the breaking point. That was the last part of everything. So the tables had to be turned.
Right. What are some of the adverse things that porn made you do?
Oh, my God. First of all, let me, I wanted a glass. I don't know where.
Can we get a cup? Let's get a cup.
I need a cup with water. I wanted to show you something. Oh, just clear water. I wanted to show you something. Brian, when you talked to me yesterday, I sent you a mail. And I told you that one of the biggest crises that we do have in the world today is porn. You know, I moved around yesterday, and, you know, some gas stations didn't have fuel and petrol and what. Yeah. It's a crisis. It seems a crisis. But not to an extent. Why? Because tomorrow, people are going to be having fuel. The other day, they will have fuel. But with porn, it's a crisis that it's for everyone. People are being destroyed by porn every day. Porn is very, very dangerous. And you know why? When I started doing porn, or when I started watching porn every now and then, this is what happens in my life. I don't want to talk a lot since all the other programs have been talking. But I want to use a demonstration to everyone to understand. Kids are coming back from home. Yeah. Even from school.
Some are watching the show
Exactly.
now.
Some are watching, and their parents are watching the program.
Yeah.
So even if I don't get a chance to speak to you again, I want to demonstrate something very, very quick, so that in these few minutes that we're going to share, you might be able to help yourself or to help someone else who's going through this.
Right.
When I was born, like I keep on telling you, when I was born, my brain was very empty like this. When you're born, when any child is born, the brain is very empty like this.
Yes.
Now, when you go to primary school or when you go to kindergarten, the teacher starts teaching you. That's a little knowledge.
There's a deposit.
Exactly. There is very clean. And here, actually, the student gets actually 90%, 98%, 97%, 93%, 100%. And you know, they put those long, exactly, those long ticks, you know, excellent, bravo. This is P1, this is P2, this is P3. You understand? Now, when I go to P4, thank you very much. Let me use this glass so that you can be able to see.
Everything is clear.
Yes.
Okay, the water is a bit hot.
Don't worry, because porn is hot.
Okay.
Porn is hot, Brian. Porn is hot, and I'm going to show you how hot it is. Now, this is P1. I mean, this is kindergarten. P1, P2. Then P3. Then P4. I'm at Namidiango. You know, here, I was getting 95. I was one of the first 5. 98. But then when I go back home in the long holiday, just like these kids are coming back home, I went home, the neighbors invited me to watch a movie, and when they invited me to watch a movie, it was a blue movie. You see this? Now, you are getting 97 and 98 and 99. Why? Because the brain was very clear. But right now, there is something in the head. I went the second day, and I watched a movie. I want the camera to zoom this. I went the third day, and I watched a movie. And I watched the fourth day, and I watched. In fact, the fourth day, it's me who picked money from my mama's bag to give them to go and rent a movie, to get a movie from the library. You know, remember those days when we were using VHS cassettes?
Yes.
So the brain was just like this. Now, I go back to school in P5 first term. Beginning of term, these are the teachers teaching. You know, this is
they have the pure thing.
Exactly, they have the pure thing. They have whatever it is. This is Victoria University, just like the chancellor has been speaking. You understand? They have everything.
Yeah.
Beginning of term, I got 63, 58, 60, 74.
A drop from 90.
Exactly. Mid-term, I didn't even spend a lot of time in those marks. I went all the way. In mid-term, I started good 49, 52, 43, 44. End of term, I was just like this. The teachers keep on teaching. But you know, each time the teachers keep on teaching, I go back home and feed my brain with a lot of junk. I watch porn. And each time this porn that I was watching was getting into my head, it was making my head sexualized. I used to get lady teachers come to teach us. And you know, you can sit in class, and watch a lady teacher. Exactly. And you can just undress the teacher. This is what is happening to the kids. Why? Because the heads are just full of junk. P5, P6, and I failed actual primary 7 with aggregates 28.
Wow.
The teachers were very disappointed with me. Why? Because I was one of the prospective students who was going to get aggregates 4. But I got aggregates actually 28. Imagine in primary 7. Why?
28.
Exactly. And you know, where this is not where it stopped. It moved an extra mile. It moved an extra mile. This is now, I go to secondary school.
Yes.
Are you following me? So when I got to secondary school, instead of reading, because now my head, when you feed junk in your head, brain, there is a chemical which is released in your brain, which is called dopamine. Mm-hmm. Dopamine is one of the most dangerous chemicals that, when it's opened in your head, you will never have to think the way you used to think. Why? Because it's just like, have you ever slaughtered chicken? Mm-hmm. And then they tell you, you know, when you slaughter chicken, do not bust the bile, because when you bust the bile, you'll not be able. Exactly. Yeah. So it's the same chemical which is in porn. It makes your head think sex all the time. Right. And now this is an adolescent stage. This is an adolescent stage.
Where you're active.
Exactly. So the hormones started raging. Every now and then, they started raging. You know, you want something, you start thinking sex. You start thinking sex. You start thinking sex. From sex, I started thinking sex, but I was still a virgin. Physically, but in the head, mentally. I wasn't a virgin. This is what is happening. When I go to secondary school,
the school still does what it's supposed to.
The teachers still teach. And when I visit schools, this is what I tell a lot of teachers. That, you know what, you teach kids. But these kids are full of junk. You are adding clean water in dirty water. You are adding good knowledge in dirty stuff. You know, I've just been hearing, I've just overheard this conversation with the chancellor and Joel, they were talking. You know, however much you have a lot of courses, let's say, and you say, my child is going to Victoria, mine is going to, you understand? However much you have that, but when the head is dirty, they will never succeed.
Right.
They will never succeed, because the brain has the power to take you up or to pull you down.
Yeah.
It has the power to pull you down. So when I go to secondary school, senior 1, senior 2, senior 3, and whatever it is, my head was full. When the head is full, you cannot do anything. You cannot do anything, because porn keeps on coming back. It will never allow you to settle down. I've seen people suffering, big people, gentlemen, smart. You understand? But they are suffering with this. Why? Because it keeps on pushing them. I was so disappointed the other time when someone was discussing the increase in HIV/AIDS in youth, and you know, they were talking that, you know, they're not being educated. No, that's not the thing. You cannot talk about HIV/AIDS without talking about porn. What pushes us to go to have sex every now and then? What pushes us? It's the every time we're thinking about sex, each and every now and then, we think about sex. So we cannot discuss, let's say, what do you call it, HIV/AIDS without mentioning porn. These are the triggers.
Yeah.
These are the triggers, Brian. And for those parents who are watching this program, if you do not talk to your child about porn, you're going to miss out a lot.
How do parents control?
Three things parents cannot control. I want to rephrase that. Parents don't have the power to control. Why? Because they are monologue.
Yeah.
I mean, the analog and the kids are digital. I mean, they cannot control, you cannot control something you don't know.
Yes.
They're BBC, and these kids are born after computer. They're born in computer. I told you yesterday, these kids are living in a generation. They're digital natives. They're speaking a digital language. If you don't have a digital
Which
language,
parents don't understand.
Exactly. They don't have the time to learn the digital language. Three things: educate, empower, and equip. The parents should learn that. They should be educated about these dangers. You understand? If you're not educated about the dangers of pornography, you cannot be able to help your friend. If you're not empowered, to tell, now, you know, Joanne, I want to talk to you about pornography. This is what pornography does. But you know what? The problem with parents, actually, you brought up a very good question. The problem with parents that when kids come from school and they get back home, parents become the second headmaster. You know, they just command. They just want to do one way. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. You know, that doesn't sell today. Right. Kids today, you cannot do one way. Because parents love maybe driving one way in town, they think they can drive one way home.
At home.
At home, it's always two way. You ride and you talk. You say, why are you experiencing this? If you have got a child, let's say, who's come back home today and maybe tomorrow, and their report card is not pleasing enough, just know that there is something wrong. There is junk. And the more junk that we consume every day, on social media, on YouTube, on Facebook, on WhatsApp, a lot of junk is being spread here. And no parent knows how to handle that. Why? Because they're not educated about what is going on. You understand? This creates what we call a dirty mind. I've been talking to people who have got a dirty mind.
I've seen you doing a lot of work in, I think, recently you were in Kenya.
Yes, I was.
Same thing.
Yes, I was.
So is this what you're doing now?
Exactly. This is exactly what I'm doing. Brian, we can only do much. We can only do much of this. Why? Because the battle is big. Like I told you, we have a public crisis on our hands. And who can solve this problem? You. I. The MD has already done her work. Everyone has to get up. We have to get up and do this. And you know, when we're dealing with children, we're dealing with two sectors. We're dealing with high school kids, and we're dealing with kids in primary school. Kids in primary school are addicted to porn at just an early age. I was at a certain school and kids were telling me, yo, teacher, you talk about some boys are doing dabbing. A kid in P3 dabbing.
Knows what dabbing
is. And then first of all I pretended. I said, no, put down your hands. And then say, no, and then say, teacher, yes, with some boys we find them in the toilet doing twerking. Do you know what twerking means? You don't even know what it means. This is new vocabulary. Twerking means jacking off. These kids are doing it. I mean, kids see their friends doing it.
Wow.
I mean, this is what is eating up our kids every day.
You say that many kids won't admit that they're exposed to porn.
Yes, they won't. They won't. Why? Because, like I told you, parents drive one way. One way. This is something which is internal. I'm telling you today that I'm an ex-porn addict. I was addicted to porn. And you know, after being addicted to porn, I was a sex addict. By the time I was 22 years, I'd already had sex with 20 girls. 20 girls. It leads to what we call multiple relationships. You know, and I don't need to tell you my story when I used to operate an escort service here and there. You know, it leads to that. You just can't get enough. But you know what? In order for you to help me to get out of this, you need to understand where it comes from.
Yeah.
So kids, the reason that's why kids do not admit to their parents is because parents do not understand where kids are coming from.
Godfrey, this is amazing.
It's big.
I want to read a couple of messages here before we wrap this up. Wabomba Ronnie says technology has done more harm than good, and it's largely to blame for the increase in pornography. Martin Wugol says addiction is a deadly issue on earth. Radio made me not understand the world around me, and it will not travel like that. What do you want to tell parents that are watching the show?
Let me tell parents. The battle belongs to us. This is a battle whereby everyone has to participate in. NTV has already done its part. You have done your part. Mrs. Conde has done her part, telling you, the producer, I don't know who she is, she's done her part. First of all, before I speak to parents, I'm speaking to you right now. I'm speaking to you because you're a dad. If we are not careful, we might not have other dads like you in the next 20 years. If I envy you because you're married, I'm not yet married. But if we are not careful, we might not have marriage the next 20 years.
Yes.
Why? Because why would I get married? Why would I commit myself to somebody when I can have it this side and this side and this side?
Right.
Porn tells you, before I give you the advert, porn tells you that, instead of going for a la carte, go for buffet. It teaches you to eat buffet every now and then. Yeah. So even if a la carte is prepared very well, you will not, because you are used to having multiple meals every now and then. You eat on Lillian, you eat on Cynthia, you eat on Perith, you eat on Stacy, you eat on just like that. So why would I get married? I'm one of those people who was just like, I'll never get married. But right now I'm fighting for that. Why? But before I get that, I need to clean up the glass.
Yeah.
I need to clean up the brain. Everybody needs to clean up the brain. Adults, young adults, the kids, they need to clean up the brain. If you don't clean up the brain is going to betray you one time. I want to encourage the parents. 3 things. Prepare, protect, and prevent. Repeat after me.
Prepare,
protect, and prevent. Thank you very much.
Continue this conversation on our Twitter handle at morning@ntv. You can also tag him at GodfreyXOX.
Yeah.
You're doing an amazing job. I saw you doing that in Kenya.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Do you have a website where people can go?
Yes, but I will not give it to them. I'll just give you my email address.
Okay.
Because on my website, you cannot write to me.
Yeah.
But with my email address, you can write to me. I want to give it to you. It's protectthegeneration@gmail.com. Just write to me. Protectthegeneration@gmail.com. But don't write to me crying, because I'm not a savior. You are your own savior. Thank you very much.
I like that. Straight to the point. This is hard stuff, guys. So let's continue this conversation there. Protectthegeneration@gmail.com. You can write to Godfrey and you talk more, especially if you have schools where you need him to come and talk to your children about overcoming pornography. He'll definitely do that. Godfrey, thank you so much for sparing your time this morning.
I'm so blessed, Brian. You're such a good guy.
Thank you.
You're such a good guy.
Thank you, man.
Bless you
When
too.
we come back, we'll be talking the Champions League and, of course, the latest from the Azam Premier League with Aisha. Stay with us.